firearm.
33-year-old Joseph Segrain charged in a drive-by shooting that injured 22-year-old Matthew DePina on Monday. The white sedan he was in riddled with bullet holes.
This defendant is identified as pulling up next to that white vehicle that Mr. DePina was in, firing at least 7 times into that vehicle, striking Mr. DePina at least 4 times.
Special Assistant Attorney General Joe McBurney says Segrain showed up at Superior Court Monday morning with 10 people.
4 adults and 2 17-year-olds are facing charges after police executed search warrants at several locations across Rhode Island on Thursday morning. Providence police say for months they were investigating possible gang activity after a series of shootings around the state.
Dan Patrice, here are the 11 suspects tied to a violent gang ring investigators say spanned streets, cell phones, and social media. Investigators calling it Operation Brickhouses. More than 100 pages of court documents and more than 100 search warrants tell the story of how Rhode Island State Police say they cracked open a sprawling tech-fueled criminal network.
Tony, we are working developing news tonight out of Providence where 6 alleged street gang members and associates are facing federal charges. Prosecutors say the suspects have been operating as a organized criminal enterprise and terrorizing the community with violent crimes, including 4 separate drive-by shootings in Providence over the last few years.
Of their lives in prison for a shooting in Providence that left a woman dead and another wounded more than 5 years ago. Marklyn Brown and Johnny Vang were given double life sentences Monday, plus a consecutive 80 years in the death of 19-year-old Berta Pereira Roldan.
Nearly 4 weeks since the destructive riot in downtown Providence, where people damaged dozens of businesses, torched a police cruiser, and looted the Providence Place Mall.
Midnight outside the Providence Place Mall quickly turned to looting and destruction.
Let's go! Come on!
Police say the MS-13 gang originated in Los Angeles and has spread right here to Rhode Island. Now, more than a dozen members of the gang have been caught here with guns. They're violent and have nicknames like Scrappy and White Boy.
Gina Patrice, the 4 suspects are accused of stealing thousands of dollars worth of merchandise from stores in the Providence Place Mall like Victoria's Secret and Lens Crafters. 4 men in their 20s allegedly living in the Bronx, handcuffed together, entering a Providence district courtroom after police arrested them near the Providence Place Mall Monday.
Tony, tonight we continue to track a story we've been working all day long. 50 people arrested in what the state police in Rhode Island are calling their single largest takedown ever.
Police say the investigation began last May after detectives received information that some of the most violent motorcycle gangs in the country were setting up local chapters in Rhode Island.
And tonight, state police say dozens of weapons, drugs, and convicted felons are all off the streets after an early morning raids that took place in Rhode Island and Massachusetts.
Investigation continues tonight at the headquarters of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club.
And our cameras were there as state police raided their Providence building this afternoon. We've confirmed the head of the club was taken into custody, and we've also learned all centers around an internal fight.
News this noontime. Providence police tell us they have made an arrest in a shooting we've been tracking this week. You may remember a man was shot leaving Superior Court on Monday afternoon.
Suspects have been operating as a organized criminal enterprise and terrorizing the community with violent crimes.
Rhode Island may be the smallest state, but its story is big. Providence was founded in 1636 by Roger Williams as a refuge built around religious freedom and independence, and the state later played an outsized role in America's early economy as a port and industry hub. It's also produced major names across history and culture: Revolutionary War General Nathanael Greene, horror writer H.P. Lovecraft, TV journalist Meredith Vieira, Miss Universe winner Olivia Culpo, and Oscar-winning actress Viola Davis. In this video, we shift from the postcard version of Rhode Island to the modern reality law enforcement keeps describing, where long-running rivalries, retaliation cycles, and underground economies collide, and where investigators respond with major operations, indictments, and sweeping arrest waves across Providence and beyond.
Dan Patrice, here are the 11 suspects tied to a violent gang ring investigators say spanned streets, cell phones, and social media. Investigators calling it Operation Brickhouses. More than 100 pages of court documents and more than 100 search warrants tell the story of how Rhode Island State Police say they cracked open a sprawling tech-fueled criminal network. The case centers around Enrique Miranda, an alleged known member of the Cutthroat Committee, a faction of the Chad Brown gang. Miranda is accused of opening fire on I-95 near the Providence Place Mall in October 2023. Court documents reveal just 3 days earlier, Miranda was negotiating the price of this P938 pistol with Benjamin Garcia of North Providence. In a series of text messages, Garcia sends a photo of the gun. Miranda replies, "It's nice. What's the number?" adding that the firearm is small. Garcia responds, "I want 9, but it's whatever if it's gone today." 3 days later, police say Miranda used a 9mm pistol in the highway shooting. That firearm has yet to be found. This shooting launched a multi-agency probe. 130 warrants executed, searching homes, phones, Facebook accounts, and even emails. The digital trail led investigators to an organized network for violence, gun deals, fraud, and drugs. Miranda's arrest leading to 10 more suspects and the seizure of 5 firearms, 6 high-capacity feeding devices, more than 700 grams of illegal drugs, and $42,000 in cash.
Rhode Island State Police said Operation Brick Houses wrapped a multi-year investigation into what they described as a highly organized network with gang affiliations tied to shootings and other violent offenses in the Providence area dating back to October 2023. Investigators said they executed about 130 search warrants, many focused on cell phones, social media accounts, emails, and residences, and that the investigation produced seizures of 5 firearms, 6 high-capacity feeding devices, about 738 grams of narcotics, and around $42,000 in cash. State police reported the probe began after a highway shooting on I-95 on October 21, 2023, near the Providence Place Mall. Police say that investigation then led to evidence of a broader organization, and they linked 2 additional targeted shootings, one on the Pawtucket Industrial Highway in Pawtucket, and another on John Street in Johnston. Investigators allege GPS tracking devices were used to locate intended victims in the Pawtucket and Johnston shootings. Court records describing Enrique Miranda as a known member of the Cutthroat Committee, described as a faction of the Chad Brown gang, and alleged he fired a 9 pistol in the I-95 shooting. That report also describes texts allegedly showing Miranda negotiating to buy a firearm from Benjamin Garcia days before the highway shooting, with cell site data placing both phones near Garcia's residence around the time of the alleged transfer. Police said the gun pictured in those messages has not been recovered. Rhode Island.
Joseph Segrain is the man charged with that drive-by shooting outside Superior Court at noontime on Monday, and prosecutors say it started with a disagreement inside the court. 33-year-old Joseph Segrain charged in a drive-by shooting that injured 22-year-old Matthew DePina on Monday. The white sedan he was in riddled with bullet holes.
This defendant is identified as pulling up next to that white vehicle that Mr. DePina was in, firing at least 7 times into that vehicle, striking Mr. DePina at least 4 times.
Special Assistant Attorney General Joe McBurney says Segrain showed up at Superior Court Monday morning with 10 people.
Came into that courtroom. Mr. Segrain himself started an altercation with an individual in that courtroom.
Segrain and his friends were told to leave after a court spokesman says there was pushing and shoving. McBurney says Segrain then circled the court for an hour, and when Matthew DePina came out and got into a relative's car, Segrain chased him and fired those shots. He's facing 5 felony charges. DePina is expected to be okay.
Rhode Island prosecutors said the January 9, 2017 midday shooting near the Licht Judicial Complex grew out of a courthouse confrontation between rival groups known as Bucket East and Bucket West. In the state's account, members of Bucket East gathered at the Providence County Courthouse because a rival they had issues with was expected to be there, and courthouse security ultimately forced the group to leave. Investigators allege that after the group exited, Joseph Black Segrain drove a BMW SUV around the area and later followed a vehicle linked to Bucket West, leading to a drive-by shooting in the downtown corridor near the Crawford Street Bridge area. Police and prosecutors tied the incident to a broader plan to target rivals, and the state sought added penalties connected to alleged gang activity. A Providence County grand jury indicted Joseph Segrain, Nathan Filomeno Tech, John LeBoy, Jose Pookie Morales, Eugene M.C. Klain, and Alexander Bird D. Jesus in May 2017, with counts including assault with a dangerous weapon, discharging a firearm while committing a crime of violence, conspiracy, drive-by shooting, and firearm offenses. Prosecutors also filed notice they would seek a gang enhancement, an additional penalty if proven. Nathan Filomeno Tech, reported sentenced to 30 years after pleading guilty in connection with the shooting. Joseph Black Segrain, convicted at trial and reported sentenced to 90 years with 80 years to serve. His conviction was later affirmed on appeal by the Rhode Island Supreme Court.
Investigators say an information network from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms was a big help in linking together some of the crimes the men are charged with. Providence police know there are more gang members and more gangs out there, but say the federal indictment is a big step in the right direction. Eyewitness News obtained mugshots from previous charges from Providence police of 4 of the men now facing federal charges.
This isn't the entirety of Chad Brown gang. These are 6 that were very active over the years, and there are others.
The 6 people Public Safety Commissioner Stephen Perry is talking about are DeLacy Andrade, Keyshawn Johnson, Montrell Johnson, Kendrick Johnson, Christopher Brito, and Marcel Jones. According to federal prosecutors, 4 of them took part in drive-by shootings in 2016 and 2017. Partnering with the ATF using a ballistic information network, investigators learned the same gun was used in 3 of those drive-bys. The attorney's office says through the network they've learned a handgun owned by one of the defendants and shared among gang members was used in 6 Providence shootings.
Federal prosecutors said a long-running feud between the Chad Brown neighborhood crew and rival groups on Providence's east side Mount Hope escalated into a cycle of retaliation shootings, intimidation, and drug dealing that investigators ultimately framed as a racketeering enterprise. The government said it built the case using surveillance, witness information, phone location evidence, and ballistic analysis that linked specific firearms to multiple scenes. And in October 2018, a federal grand jury unsealed a 29-count indictment charging DeLacy Andrade, Keyshawn Johnson, Montrell Johnson, Marcel Jones, Kendrick Johnson, and Christopher Brito under RICO and related gun and drug statutes. Prosecutors alleged the enterprise was tied to multiple shootings in 2016-2017, including an attempted deletion outside the Walmart on Silver Spring Street, a shooting later that day on Appian Street, a gunfight on Douglas Avenue 2017, and a drive-by on Hendrick Street. And they said a silver Beretta was ballistically linked to several of those incidents. The government also alleged the group funded itself through drug trafficking, including Coca-Cola and marijuana distribution. In the case's major outcome, DOJ reported that 4 defendants pleaded guilty and were sentenced on July 26, 2022. DeLacy Andrade, 11 years. Keyshawn Johnson, 12 years. Montrell Johnson, 7 years. And Kendrick Johnson, 6 years, in federal prison.
Friends say they went out to nightclubs in Providence to celebrate her birthday when she was shot.
She went to go have fun for her birthday, and unfortunately I was at work and I couldn't even go, and I wish I was there with her.
Police have been working around the clock to figure out who shot 2 women who they say were innocent bystanders. Police say the women, who didn't know each other, were coming out of a club on Broad Street around 2 Sunday morning. 38-year-old Crystal Peliquin of North Providence was shot several times. Police say her injuries are non-life-threatening and she's still recovering tonight. Pereira Roldan was pronounced dead at the scene.
She was just telling us that she had a really good time because she never goes out, and that she had a good time, and then she hugged me, and then we heard gunshots, and then she fell to the floor, and I didn't even know what happened. But
friends say the 19-year-old was studying psychology at North Shore Community College and worked all summer to pay for it. Loved ones say she'll be remembered as a good-hearted, hard-working girl with an infectious smile.
Men will spend the rest of their lives in prison for a shooting in Providence that left a woman dead and another wounded more than 5 years ago. Marklyn Brown and Johnny Vang were given double life sentences Monday, plus a consecutive 80 years in the death of 19-year-old Berta Pereira Roldan. Back in 2019, Pereira Roldan was celebrating her birthday with friends in Providence.
Prison. On September 29, 2019, Providence police say gunfire erupted on Detroit Avenue shortly after people left Noah Lounge on Broad Street. Officers found Berta Pereira Roldan of Revere, Massachusetts, fatally shot, and a second woman, Crystal Peliquin, wounded nearby. Investigators recovered 16 spent shell casings, and police said the 2 women were not the intended targets. Instead, court filings and reporting said the shooting was aimed at 2 men police believed had gang ties. Police said the investigation relied heavily on surveillance video, phone records, location data, and forensic evidence to identify suspects and reconstruct what happened. Reporting at the time described investigators reviewing multiple camera angles that showed vehicles circling the area before the shooting and later tracking a rental vehicle connected to the case. In February 2020, Providence police arrested Marklin Brown, Johnny Vang, and Jimmy Costello, and the department said all three were affiliated with the Block Street Gang. They were initially arraigned on numerous felony counts and held without bail. According to the Rhode Island Attorney General, a jury found Johnny Vang and Marklin Brown guilty on March 21, 2025 of first-degree deletion and related charges. On June 23, 2025, the trial judge sentenced both men to double life plus a consecutive 80 years to serve, with 40 years non-parolable.
In the early morning hours of June 2nd, what started as chanting in the street around midnight outside the Providence Place Mall quickly turned to looting and destruction.
Let's go! Goodbye!
Since then, Providence police have charged these two Warwick men, William Palazzo and Joshua Martinson, with leading the crowd to loot the mall. Writing in a police affidavit supporting their arrest warrants, they were, quote, clearly inciting riots and encouraging protesters to storm the mall to loot and damage property.
This is bigger than something I could ever be a part of.
Police cite social media videos like this one where Palazzo and Martinson are seen shouting to the crowd before the group runs towards the mall's entrance.
More rap better than your favorite MC.
Palazzo and Martinson are members of this amateur rap group out of Warwick called Warrack, referred to as a gang in court documents. 23-year-old Palazzo has already pleaded no contest to the disorderly conduct charge, while 21-year-old Martinson pleaded not guilty to disorderly conduct and vandalism charges. Neither one commented on the allegations when reached by Target 12.
Providence police said unrest that included the Providence Place Mall looting led them to charge two Warwick men, Joshua Martinson and William Palazzo, described in coverage as affiliated with the rap group Warrack, after investigators reviewed video that police said showed the pair loudly instructing and encouraging people to commit violent and unlawful acts during the chaos. Police said they charged both men with disorderly conduct, and at the time, Major David Lapiton warned more charges and more arrests could still be coming as investigators continued combing through footage from the riot.
Rhode Island State Police calling this the single largest takedown in its history. They say it's the result of a year-long investigation called Operation Patched Out, which focused on two motorcycle gangs operating in the northwestern part of the state.
This investigation revealed that over the past year, there have been several violent confrontations between these motorcycle gangs operating in Rhode Island. And these confrontations do not get reported to law enforcement. They were just discovered as a result of this investigation.
Took place in several communities. State police telling us they were concentrated in Woonsocket. We captured the aftermath Wednesday morning. The front door of 213 High Street shattered. Tonight, this front door has already been replaced, and neighbors here on High Street tell me they're not surprised something like this would happen in their area.
I kind of expected it on this street. This street's hot.
John Patnode was woken up.
Alleged president of the Rhode Island chapter of the Pagans motorcycle gang, Derek Tuna McGuire, started off the arraignments in Providence District Court Thursday morning. McGuire was ordered held without bail, expected as a violator in Superior Court this afternoon. The judge said he faces 221 counts. The few charges she read aloud before McGuire's lawyer stopped her were all drug-related. Apparel, all seized in their early morning raids. State police said they had been tracking the Pagans and Cripman gangs since they started establishing chapters in Northwest Rhode Island about a year ago.
In 2018, the alleged leader of Rhode Island's pagan motorcycle gang was charged with 221 counts related to drugs, firearm, and fraud. In court Thursday, Derek Tuna McGuire pleaded guilty to 9 of those counts.
Rhode Island State Police said Operation Patched Out began after investigators received intelligence in 2017 that violent outlaw motorcycle gangs were establishing a foothold in northwestern Rhode Island, and that a local shakeup, patching over from one group to another, raised the risk of retaliation and gun violence. After a year-long probe, police said more than 150 investigators executed 29 pre-dawn raids across northern Rhode Island and nearby Massachusetts communities on May 23, 2018, arresting about 4950 people tied to the Pagans and Cripmen, plus alleged weapons suppliers, drug dealers, and customers. Authorities said the raids produced one of the biggest seizure lists in state history. 53 illegal guns, including a rocket launcher, plus large quantities of various drugs and other weapons-related items. Investigators also described uncovering additional criminal activity beyond guns and narcotics, such as trafficking in stolen ATVs and equipment, lawn tractors, snowblowers, and fraudulent mortgage bank activity, which they said helped finance the broader operation. Derek Tuna MC Geyer, identified by police as the leader of the Rhode Island Pagans chapter, later pleaded and was sentenced to 20 years with 10 years to serve at the ACI, plus a suspended portion and probation. Providence and Rhode Island State.
4 men in their 20s allegedly living in the Bronx, handcuffed together, entering a Providence district courtroom after police arrested them near the Providence Place Mall Monday, communicating with the judge through a translator.
And employees from LensCrafters and Victoria's Secrets. They both stated that these individuals entered their stores, selected some items from their stores, passed all points of purchase from their stores with the property.
The group allegedly then jumped into a car which was described to police and swiftly located near the mall with the help from Cranston flock cameras and searched.
In that vehicle, they located numerous items from said stores. A full confession was given. They were charged.
Investigators believe the group got away with close to $10,000 in stolen merchandise using special bags designed for shoplifting. Cranston police say the same suspect vehicle is connected to the theft of more than $2,000 in makeup and perfume from Ulta in Garden City in March, adding that 3 separate incidents were reported in the past 2 months there. Investigators believe the 4 are connected to a theft ring that's been operating in the Northeast, stealing items from stores in Connecticut, New York, Massachusetts, North Carolina, and Illinois, with total losses estimated to be more than 30 grand.
Providence police said a shoplifting investigation near Providence Place Mall led to the arrests of 4 men on April 7, 2025, after officers stopped their vehicle and allegedly found close to $10,000 in stolen merchandise inside. Investigators said the suspected stolen items included goods taken from stores inside the mall. Reporting specifically mentions merchandise from Victoria's Secret and sunglasses, and that the suspects were using bags designed to defeat store anti-theft systems. Police also said they were already looking for the group because of suspected links to a multi-state organized retail theft ring, and that Cranston police alerted Providence after the vehicle was detected using the flock license plate reader system near downtown Providence. At their initial court appearance, the 4 were identified as Ozzy Arenas Arellano, Keener Perez Salas, Michael Omar Amistoy Arellano, and Howard Garcia Marquez.
4 adults and 2 17-year-olds are facing charges after police executed search warrants at several locations across Rhode Island on Thursday morning. Providence police say for months they were investigating possible gang activity after a series of shootings around the state. 19-year-old Deprice Daly is facing 7 weapons-related charges after police searched his Woonsocket home Thursday morning. Police also searched this home on Carolina Ave, the site of a shooting in May 2021 where 9 people were injured, and one that police had noted had been raided by law enforcement several times. It's also the home of Dylan Carides. A judge entered no plea on behalf of Carides, who faces 16 weapons and drugs-related charges after police made a significant find. Dylan and Daniel Carides, who police say are brothers, were arraigned in separate courthouses on Friday.
Providence and Rhode Island State Police said a coordinated series of raids across the state on Thursday, April 24, 2025, was tied to a broader investigation into recent shootings, including multiple house shootings in Providence over the prior 6 months. Police confirmed search warrants were served in several cities and neighborhoods. Reporting specifically mentions raids at Harrison Street in Pawtucket, Alexander Street in North Providence, and Carrington Avenue in Woonsocket, with tactical teams involved, including Pawtucket's Special Response Team and the State Fire Marshal's Explosives Operations Division. On Friday, April 25th, prosecutors laid out some of the alleged evidence in Providence District Court, where Deprice Daly and Dylan Carides faced multiple illegal firearms charges connected to searches at their homes in Providence and Woonsocket.
Anyone inside 161 Messer Street? This is the state police. Come out with your hands up. Do it now.
The dramatic scene unfolds on Messer Street. State police break down the door at the Hells Angels headquarters in Providence, ready with their guns drawn.
Come out with your hands
Eyewitness News captures state police swarming the Hells Angels headquarters in Providence, known as their clubhouse. According to state police, this raid comes after the president of the Rhode Island Hells Angels motorcycle gang was arrested here on Wednesday afternoon. 28-year-old Joseph Lancia is being charged with felony assault. State police say they've linked Lancia to a previous shots fired incident near the clubhouse. That case is still under investigation.
Rhode Island State Police raided the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club clubhouse at 161 Messer Street in Providence and arrested Joseph M. Lancia, described in reporting as the head of the Rhode Island chapter. Police said the raid stemmed from a reported felony assault in which a driver told detectives a single bullet struck the passenger side of his vehicle while he drove past the clubhouse. No one was injured. After taking Lancia into custody, investigators obtained a search warrant, forced entry to the building, and said they recovered 3 firearms and assorted ammunition. 2 other people, Howard J. Paulett and Amber E. Gill, were also arrested that day on obstruction/resisting charges during the search. Providence
police say the MS-13 gang originated in Los Angeles and has spread right here to Rhode Island. Now, more than a dozen members of the gang have been caught here with guns. They're violent and have nicknames like Scrappy and White Boy. This is a list of the names provided to us by Providence Police. On the top, the ringleader, they say, 33-year-old Francisco Cisco Bonilla. 3 others seen here are facing federal charges. Police say these men are responsible for major crimes in the Providence area. 50 MS-13 members in the Providence area, hundreds worldwide. Police say they confiscated 11 guns off our streets and about $400,000 and other weapons.
What investigators publicly tie to that crackdown involving specific MS-13 defendants indicted in Providence County in early October 2012. 2 key examples that have clear, official, what happened next, outcomes are. Francisco Bonilla, Cisco, described by the RI Attorney General as the leader of the Providence MS-13 group, who was indicted and arrested, then pleaded guilty in January 2013 to felony assault and multiple firearm charges, and received a 10-year sentence at the ACI. Richard Ibanez, also indicted and arrested, pleaded guilty in January 2013 to first-degree arson counts and conspiracy, and was sentenced to 8 years at the ACI.
It says an investigation that started into Rhode Island led to a big drug bust in another New England state. DEA New England said in a social media post today that the investigation took them to Portland, Maine, and led to half a dozen other arrests.
In early September 2025, the DEA's New England division said a Rhode Island-based investigation led to an enforcement operation in Portland, Maine, where agents arrested 6 people the DEA said were in the U.S. illegally and had alleged ties to MS-13. Authorities said the operation resulted in the seizure of about 8 kilograms of Coca-Cola and roughly $100,000 in cash. Providence and Rhode Island State Police said 2 separate late-night shootings in May and June 2019 were tied to a rivalry between street gangs, and that a long-term hit-to-task force investigation led to 7 arrests. The first incident happened outside Club 7, where 2 people were shot and survived. The second happened near El Patio nightclub, public street area, where Gene Garrido was shot and later listed as one of the defendants. Police said multiple shots were fired in both incidents and treated them as gang-related retaliation. The Rhode Island Attorney General later described the 2019 events as part of a larger, year-long gang and narcotics investigation called Operation Heap. In that account, prosecutors said Tussa played a central role by helping plan and direct the Spruce Street shooting and then helping organize a June 16th shootout scenario tied to rival targets. Operation Zombie was an 18-month, multi-agency gang and drug probe in Providence that officials announced in June 2015 as part of the Rhode Island Urban Violent Crime Initiative. Authorities said the investigation targeted members and associates of 3 South Providence gangs and focused on trafficking, firearms offenses, and related violent crime. At the press conference, officials said the sweep produced 30 suspects total, with 24 arrested in custody and 6 still at large, and they displayed 5 seized handguns as evidence of what they called the Guns Plus Drugs 1009 driving neighborhood. On October 22, 2014, Rhode Island prosecutors said members of the street gang known as Indictment carried out a targeted shooting at near the Chad Brown housing complex in Providence as part of an ongoing feud, with Terry Robinson meeting his demise and wounding Delacy Andrade, while also firing at Kendrick Johnson, who survived. Investigators allege the shooters were tipped off about rivals' whereabouts by Antonio Fortes, and that Tevin Briggs and Bruce Moten tracked the victims and opened fire. In April 2015, the Attorney General's office said a secret indictment was unsealed charging Moten, Briggs, and Fortes, with Briggs pleading guilty and Moten later going to trial, where a jury convicted Moten while Fortes was acquitted. In March 2017, a Superior Court judge sentenced Tevin Briggs to life plus 60 years after his guilty plea. Bruce Moten was sentenced in January 2017 to 2 consecutive life terms plus 70 years. The getaway driver, Henry Lopez, was sentenced in March 2017 to a total of 22 years. Rhode Island prosecutors say the 2019 demise at Nara Lounge on Wells Avenue began as a confrontation inside near the hookah lounge and ended with Troy Pine being fatally wounded. The state later told the court it intended to pursue habitual offender treatment if Joel Francisco were convicted. Francisco, described as a former high-ranking Almighty Latin Kings figure, fled Rhode Island after the incident and was captured at a motel in New Braunfels, Texas, after authorities said he was trying to continue toward Mexico. He was ordered detained and returned to Rhode Island for court proceedings. Operation Royal Flush was an 11-month, multi-agency crackdown in Providence, Rhode Island, targeting alleged drug dealing by members and associates of the Almighty Latin King Nation. Announced in November 2004, officials said the probe began in late 2003 after Providence police developed information that Latin King members' associates were trafficking significant amounts of various drugs. At the enforcement stage, authorities said 26 people were charged through a mix of federal indictments, and that agents had already arrested 21 defendants while seeking additional suspects. Officials also reported seizing $100,420 in cash and 4 vehicles valued around $99,200. When you line these Rhode Island cases up, from Operation Brick Houses and the Cutthroat Committee allegations to the Bucket East Bucket West Courthouse shooting case, the Chad Brown RICO prosecution, the C Block Noah Lounge case, major task force operations like Patched Out and Zombie, plus MS-13 and retail theft investigations, the pattern is consistent. These aren't one-night stories. They're long investigations built on phones, surveillance, warrants, and coordinated raids, followed by court battles where outcomes can range from dismissals and pleas to decades-long sentences. The names and crews may change, but the themes rhyme: retaliation, money, weapons, and the pressure points investigators target to dismantle networks. And as always, the biggest takeaway is that the courtroom finish matters as much as the arrest headline, because that's where the final accountability and the real impact on the streets is decided.